Hello, this is Mr. Novak. For today's class, I want you guys to take notes on elements of a story. So over the next couple minutes when you guys are watching this video, I want you guys to make sure you're copying down all the definitions, any examples as well, onto your worksheet to make sure they're included. So let's get started. Our first term is character. The characters are the people that are in the story. So when you're writing a story, you want to have a main character, right? The main character is kind of the person who's going to be we're following in this story. Okay, so the main character determines how the plot will develop. So when you're writing about your characters, you want to introduce them kind of in the beginning of the story. Okay, when you're writing about them, you want to describe their personality traits as well as their physical appearances. This is important for when you're writing a story. If somebody's reading your story, you kind of want to make sure they understand who your characters are, right? So you want to kind of make sure they understand like what they're like. So what are their traits? Also, kind of what they look like, right? What their physical appearances are. So then people, as they're reading it, they can kind of picture what this person is, right? Like what they're all about. So a good example is Harry Potter, right? So traits of Harry Potter would be that he's brave and he's determined. So you want to be able to show Harry Potter being brave, showing that he's being determined, that he's not giving up. So those are the kinds of things you want to show kind of in the beginning of the story and also throughout your story as well, that he's showing those traits. Also, you want to describe his physical appearances so people can kind of get an idea of what he looks like. So you can talk about that he has brown hair, that he wears glasses. All those things are important to make sure people are understanding what your character is so they can kind of get a good idea of what they're all about. Okay, our next term is setting. Okay, so it's where and when the story takes place. So really when you're writing this is also something that you should do kind of in the beginning of your story, is you want to describe what it's like to be there. So for example, if we're talking about New York City now, like in present day, if we went to New York City right now, we would talk about the large buildings. We would talk about that it's noisy, it's busy, it's crowded, there's lots of people there. And that kind of helps you understand what New York City is like. So if you describe all those things, that'll be very helpful to the reader. So you want to introduce this in the beginning of your story as well, of where it's taking place, and describe your setting. Our next one is plot. So really, plot is just basically what the story is all about. The plot should have three main parts. It should have a beginning, a middle, and end. Okay, so the beginning should introduce the characters and the setting. The middle should include a conflict, and the end should have a resolution of the problem. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in the next couple slides. So if we take a look here, our conflict is the problem in the story. Okay, so every story needs a conflict that the characters have to try to solve. So for example, if we're talking about the Harry Potter movies, the main conflict would be Harry Potter versus Voldemort, right? So Harry Potter has to go against Voldemort, right? Harry and his friends have to try to stop him. Okay, this is important to include a conflict, because if you don't have a conflict in a story, it's not going to be very exciting, or you're just having characters kind of do random things. So you need to have them trying to do something. So in Harry Potter, right, he has to go against Voldemort. It's kind of good versus evil. So that's an important kind of thing to make sure you're including in your stories, that you have a conflict within your story. Our next one is resolution. Okay, resolution is just a simple way of saying the solution to the problem, right? The story needs to end, and you have to solve the problem that is presented. So you can solve the problem, like have a happy ending, or you can have a sad ending to your stories, but you need to solve it in some way, because otherwise, if you're a reader, you're seeing that there's really nothing, nothing really happened. So you want to make sure something happened, and keep people engaged in what they're reading, or if they're watching something. Okay, so for example, if we're talking about Harry Potter, the resolution would be him fighting Voldemort, and then he wins. Okay, Harry and his friends have to go against Voldemort, and they finally win. So that's the resolution. They solve their problem of Voldemort by beating him and winning in the end. Okay, and our last one is talking about theme. Okay, so theme is really the message or the meaning of the story. So if we're still talking about Harry Potter, kind of one of the themes that you can talk about in there, because there's lots of different themes that you can talk about from Harry Potter, but one we could talk about is teamwork and togetherness. So this theme is shown because Harry and his friends had to work together to stop Voldemort. So really, it's kind of the message of the story, right? Harry couldn't beat Voldemort by himself. He needed his friends, he needed Ron, Hermione, and everybody else to kind of work together to beat him, right? If Harry did this by himself, he probably couldn't have beaten Voldemort, right? But if you work together, he was able to do that. So it's kind of the lesson that you can learn from the story as well. All right, so those are the different terms for the elements of a story. So finish copying those in, okay, and have a good day. All right, bye.